Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, Tim and I are talking about something that I think many of you will be able to relate to, or at least you know somebody who has gone through this or is going through this. And it's what we call achievement addiction. It's people who are, air quote, addicted to achievement and all the work that goes into it. But once they get there, it's not enough. And they need more, faster, better, higher, harder. And the cycle goes on, much actually like a chemical or substance use addiction. It's very similar.
Okay. So this is like the switchback mountain where you think you just made it and then you didn't. And then there's another little hill and then you think you made it and then you didn't. Right?
Achievement addiction is when success becomes your drug.
Yeah.
Your drug isn't Coke. Your drug isn't, seeking that next high. Well, it could be success, financial success. I also think, as I was getting ready for this episode, we've seen it in the world of marathons and triathlon, but you hear it a lot with people working so hard to get ready, train for that marathon 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year. And then the day comes and they're there and they're doing it. And we read about it, you hear coaches talking about it. Get ready, because when you cross that finish line and you've reached the high, the culmination of, the crowds, the fanfare, the music, the announcer, your name, your number being called, your name being called as you go through that finish line, you're at the top. And then then you go down. And what's after that?
I don't even know if it's a slide down. I think it's a straight down, right? Because it's like as soon as you cross the finish line, it's over. Right. And it's like, you're like, well, what's next? What's the next thing?
There you go. And they do say the elite coaches, well, all coaches, I've heard you talk about it. I've read about it in Runner's World.
Oh, you're saying
magazine.
I'm not a lead coach?
Well,
that. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you achieve, let's say, a PR in a certain event, right? And what's your next thing? You're already thinking about, well, how could I beat that number, right?
Well, that was me with triathlon.
Yeah.
Not all the 20 years. I didn't feel that way because in the beginning I was just trying to get through it, get to the finish line and then do well and enjoy myself at the same time. And there were years I couldn't be as serious because of life, kids, work, just the busyness. I just couldn't put the time in. But as the years went by, I'd say the past 10 out of 20 years, I was always chasing the podium. I was always chasing my place in the podium, is get on the podium in my age group, not win the whole race. Those are truly the elite, the best of the best. Even in, I wouldn't say the local races, but more the regional or the Ironman branded races. Those are the best women in the country and then internationally in the world. I was chasing the podium just to get third. And then once I started to get on the podium, then I wanted to be second and first in my age group. And it was always a chase for something like really better, stronger, higher, more appealing.
Yeah.
And it's the same in the workplace where, you finally had that incredible launch. You worked so hard for this launch of your product or name it, or you're an influencer in social media and you've worked hard for all the likes and you finally have, maybe 525,000, 500,000 followers and you got there and you worked so hard for it. And then, you had a champagne toast, you took your team out to dinner. And then the next day you wake up and it's like, well, now what? I worked so hard at that goal for so many years. Now I'm there, or months, depending on who you are, what it is you're doing. Now I'm there. And now what? Wah, wah.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, how you can have goals for yourself, but at the same time, how you can learn to live through and be in the moment, be in the process versus always looking at outcomes. Because when you're always looking at the outcome, you're going to come up with diminishing returns. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk about it.
Even in the world, like in my business, so we set targets, for the end of the year and like what we would want to achieve in regards to revenue.
Right.
And you try to aim with a realistic target so that you're going to attain it, right? But like you had to be careful because like it's not like the next year after that you can just say, "Oh, I'm going to add 10%. I'm going to exceed it again by 10%."
10%'s a lot.
It
I don't
is.
know if that's
But
realistic.
should it be any percent? Because it's like at some point, is it better to just maintain a quality product and a service? Or is it always driven by, oh, we have to be just a little bit better. We have to sell just a little bit more.
Well, you have to have goals, right?
You have to have
You
goals,
have to
but
have
I
goals.
but I think quality can be a goal. Like you could
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm going to produce the best run of theater productions in 2026. I'm not going to add another one and stretch myself even thinner because then I'm really setting myself up for failure potentially. Versus, let's talk about how we can make the current list of productions better, right?
So here's the question for all of you as we get into this episode. Are you in your life steering the car of your success? Are you steering that car or are you strapped to the hood?
Wow. Strapped to the hood. I had like a flashback, like a scene out of like Mad Max when you said that.
There you
Like
go.
strapped to the hood.
Right.
Okay.
So what's healthy ambition? Okay. So what is it when you have this ambition and you want to do well, whether it's you want to run a marathon, you want to run a 5K, you want to start a new business, you want to bring your business to a certain level financially, maybe whatever, customers wise, you think of it. All of you who are listening and watching, you think of the ambition you have in your life. Maybe all you really care about right now is finding love in your life and a life partner. Think about what those big goals are for you in your life. All right. So when we have healthy ambition, it's purpose driven, right? And it's anchored to our values. And if you don't know what your values are, I've said it before in the podcast, this is big in the coaching world. You need to understand what your values are. So go and take a values test. You can do when there's the Clifton Strengths, which many, many, many of you know. You've done it maybe through the workplace. There's VIA. There's all kinds of values tests out there, and there are many for free. You don't need to pay. Some of them are like $30. Some of them are $300, $500. You can even use AI and you can come up with a way to, I'm telling you, a quick way to know what your values are because you do need to understand those for yourself. So, that healthy ambition is purpose driven and it goes back to what are my values? What do I value? Achievement, addiction, when you get addicted to achieving, that's this compulsive chase for external validation. And the thing about achievement addiction, and I have been guilty of this. I when I was doing this episode, getting ready for it, I was like, "Oh, this is totally me." And you may see it. You and I haven't talked about them. This is me. Goalposts are keep moving. They're constantly moving.
Yeah.
And I have a little
But
bit,
not in a
and not in a good way.
not
That's
in a side to side way. In a depth way.
well,
Is
for
what
me,
you're
it's side
talking
to
about.
side and to depth.
Well, it's not side to side because then we'd be trying to have you miss, but like it's the depth that's
Oh, I
longer.
see.
Yeah, you're trying to kick longer,
Okay,
right?
I see. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
So my goalposts do move quite
yeah,
often.
yeah.
And I was doing this episode, and I'm going to be the first to admit I have some of this, and I got to work on this. This was a wake up call for me
Hmm.
that I tend to not see the end of the road. I tend to, or the goalposts, right? They do get longer and longer and further away. Sometimes they're further up, close to me, and then they move further out, and I can't see them anymore, and I get lost in the process. And what am I really doing here? What are my goals and what are my values? I have to remind myself of what my values are.
Yeah.
But you can get really caught up in this that your values just go out the window. It's almost like you need to hit the reset button. That's why coaching is so important because another coach, for me, I'm talking, can come in and remind me of my goals or tell me, Anna, slow down. What are you doing here? Where are your goals? Let's go back to what you talked about. That helps me press the reset button. Because if I don't have another person doing that for me and with me, I can get very lost and mired in this whole achievement addiction piece.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you
big
and
time.
you and I have talked about this before. It's like be good with enjoying the journey as much as you are enjoying the destination.
But I always have my foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah. You
And
just
you know
want
that
to,
about me.
I know, you want to get there quicker.
I want to get there quicker and I want to
Yeah.
go fast.
Yeah.
So, when you have this healthy sense of ambition, you say to yourself, I have goals. I have goals, and here's what they are. When you are addicted to achievement, the thinking is, I am my goals. And there's a big distinction there. And I am a little guilty of sometimes thinking that I am my goals. Versus these are my goals. These are what I have.
Yeah.
Versus I
Well,
am.
so define I am my goals. Like, what are you saying there?
I am the success of this podcast. I am the success of this podcast, or I have goals for this podcast, and those are the goals for the podcast. So there's a distinction. Do you see there's a difference? I am not the podcast. And then part of me is like, no, you are. You're the face and you're the voice of the podcast. So the goals are you, Anna. They're you. And I know because this gets into cognitive work that I've been teaching for 30 years. And I see it in myself, as you well know. I mean, I have to, as a human, I have to work on, once you learn certain techniques and skills and therapies, it doesn't mean that I, Anna Marcolene, therapist, life coach, also don't have them. I'm just like all the rest of you. And so are you. We struggle. This is just our human condition, our human nature in some ways. So I have to work on my cognition. I have to work on going back to stop. You are not, yes, you are the face of the podcast, but you are not the podcast. There's so much more to who I am.
Right.
And what I encompass. If we're talking about my work alone, this is one branch or one arm of what I do. I have a private practice. I have a practice where I see clients every day, coaching and therapy clients, and it's pretty evenly split right now. That is a huge part of my work life. And then you take the speaking and you take all the other things I do, but the podcast is one branch of it. Anna is not Badass Confidence Coach. Badass Confidence Coach is the name of a podcast that I created 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I get lost in that.
Yeah.
So think for yourself, if think for yourself, the listeners and all of you who are watching, my people, think for yourself. Where does it show up for you? Does it show up for you?
Yeah. So I can give you an example now that we're saying this out loud. So I'm thinking back to like when I used to teach spin, right? Cycling classes like all the time.
Yeah.
And that's like a cultish environment to begin with, right?
I'm listening to that. I'm listening to it, the Soul Cycle podcast, a series we're doing right now about the addiction of Soul Cycle.
The history of that.
Very, very culty, I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah. So back in the day, like when I was really into it, I was teaching, 4, 5, 6 classes a week.
You had a following.
I had a following, but it was and under the umbrella of what we're talking about, it was like, let's see if I can teach. I'm saying this to myself. Let's see if I can teach a perfect class from beginning to end.
Really?
Right? Like the class that you're like, okay, that's the end of it. Like I can never teach a better class than that. And there were many times where I thought I thought I did it, but then it's like you get back on the saddle like the next day or like a couple hours later, and you're like, okay, I need to like do a little bit better than that. Right? Like you're like,
I didn't know that, Tim. You never said that to me.
But I never consciously thought about it that way. I think it was just in there. But as we're talking about it right now, I'm sure that was something that was like driving me day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, because
what were you addicted to? The achievement or the ego it's ego. I'm sorry.
It's the ego. And I think it was just to deliver just this perfect experience for somebody, like this 55-minute experience, like in that arena. That was like, wow, that was like the best spin class I've ever gone to.
Well, I don't know how, and you and I we have never talked about this together until right now. I don't know how you weren't a little addicted to the achievement piece of all the people who are following you and the wait list to get into your class and the people who are addicted to your spin, your class, your music, your class. Remember, those classes in the morning at that, I won't say the name, but there'd be a line of people waiting to get into your classroom. And if that class before you didn't end on time, remember people would like open the door up and come in because they wanted their certain bike.
I need to get that bike.
They wanted to be on that certain bike and they wanted, people wanted to be in the front with you, looking at you. They wanted to be like, it was a thing. It
Yeah.
was a thing. And I don't know how you couldn't have had ego around that, because you were the most sought after spin instructor in a couple places that you were at, which is kudos
Yeah.
to you. You were good at it, but how did you not have ego or
I mean,
achievement
I'm
issues around
sure
that?
that that was a slice of it, 100%,
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
no way it couldn't be.
Absolutely. And it was like just watching the faces, watching the reaction, watching the enjoyment of a participant, right? In
And
that
you're on a little
moment.
stage and you're talking and you're leading the rides and the
Everything
music,
about
and
it,
it's all about you.
everything about it sets that up, right? That
Yeah.
the instructor is like in the spotlight and everybody else is in the darkness around you, right? It's set up to be that
That's when we
way.
got to that whole, it wasn't the beginning, but after the years went by, the rooms were dark.
Yeah, right.
It was like a sexual experience.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe for you, but like
No, it wasn't.
I
But
certainly never
no, it
thought
wasn't.
that way.
You were great. You were the total athlete. But I do remember remember that one spin class, that woman who was trying out to be a spin instructor at one of your old gyms?
Yeah.
And who is it that told us this? That after, and she was very like sexual the way she taught the class. And one of the guys in the class was over, goes, I feel like I need a cigarette.
Now that's funny.
There you
I do
go.
remember that. Now that you say
I
that.
feel like I need a cigarette. Okay.
Like, what just happened?
All righty then. What just happened in the last 45 minutes?
Talking
Anyways.
about letting yourself go, like letting your mind just like,
Jeez.
yikes.
Well, I remember her, and she had a very voluptuous body, and she was sexual the way she rode that bike and the way she talked, and she got everybody huffing and puffing. No, yeah, you can read into that as you wish.
Yes.
So anyways, but achievement. So basically I've struggled with this, and I think that, so when we have this healthy ambition, we celebrate our wins, and then we know how to rest. We celebrate the wins, the good things that happen in our lives. And I am speaking mostly in the workplace, but you all can think about where this shows up for you. Like I said, I mean, it might be, and I have seen it more with marathon runners. You celebrate that win, and then the healthy individual is able to really rest and look back at that last week or that last month or 3 months ago, and really look back with warmth and happiness and a sense of personal achievement, right?
Yeah.
But it's healthy. The addiction piece is, you've got the euphoria. You have that, like I just said, you get to the finish line and that you feel euphoric, but then it's immediately, what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
And that is me. I have been that way. I have been that way for so many years, and I have got a wake up call with this, during the research for this episode, because I am that way, and you know I am that way.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I never really enjoy the good stuff, the moment. One of my coaches a couple of years ago, she said to me, have you taken the time to really look at how successful this past year has been? I'm like, no, because I'm in this year. She's like, no, slow down. Let's look at last year.
right.
Let's look at how you increase, or clients or money made or the podcast. She's like, Anna. And I had not stopped to do that from the prior year. It was the beginning of the next year. And that was a wake up call for me.
You're not alone with that. I mean,
I know.
I'm thinking of the
That's
people.
why we're doing this episode.
Yeah, I mean, but I think of the people that are listening, like several people specifically, but like people in sales, right? People in finance, people in investment, right? Like those people, that's them, right?
Yeah.
Because they're always trying to do the to get a little bit better, right? There's always like the goal is just like you said before. There's the goal, and then as soon as you hit it, then your boss comes in or your board comes in and says, "Okay, nice job, quick pat on the back," and then off we go. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the new. Here's
It's
the new
sort
one.
of ingrained in the workplace. And,
Yes.
right.
In
many,
certain things, not all
Right.
things, right? But in
Right.
certain things, that's how it goes. Yeah.
right.
Talking about stressful. Like,
It is.
like way to.
It is.
That's like the way you operate.
Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of the neuroscience of what's going on inside of us, our brains, and why this happens. Okay, but before we do, I want to take a moment to really say to all of you, thanks for listening and thanks for watching on YouTube. And if you are looking for a coach, reach out to me. Okay, come talk to me. hello@annamarcolin.com. Don't hesitate. If you're in Illinois and you're looking for therapy, reach out to me for psychotherapy. And anywhere you are in the world, I can and I am willing to. Of course, I want to coach you, and
And you do.
and I do,
You
and I
do it. You're
do,
doing
and
it now.
I
Yeah.
am doing it.
Yeah.
So reach out to me. Let's see if I'd be a good fit for you. If I am. I think the most important thing in coaching and therapy relationships is the fit. We call it air quote goodness of fit. So let's get on a call together and see if I'd be a good fit for you. But please don't hesitate. All right. Many times it takes us, I think for most of us, it takes time and time and time again of being exposed to someone and listening to someone, hearing their voice, seeing them, watching them on social media, wherever it is that you're doing your research until you finally, hit go. And maybe this is your call right now to really finally reach out to me and say, let's work together. Okay. I would love to meet you and love to get to know you individually.
Nice.
Okay. And if you ever, and I don't think I've said this here before either, if you ever want references or people who I've worked with, I've got testimonials on my website, but I've got real live people who would be willing to talk to you about how I am as a life coach and how I am as a therapist. Okay. So no problem getting you people who will talk to you, who have worked with me, who can vouch for me because I am the real deal. In a sea of coaches, today, I'm the real deal.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So what's going on with our brains? I'm going to read to you their neuroscience. All right. This is dopamine 101. So the brain scans show that dopamine spikes higher during anticipation of an event, of a launch, of you name it, a marathon, whatever it is you got going on, or you're starting your podcast. So dopamine spikes during the anticipation, then at the moment of the reward. So do you see why we're going after that dopamine high? It's all that's building up right before the event. All right. And then after we get to the event, your nucleus accumbens is literally, it's wired for the chase. And then after that, it drops down. Okay. So that's the part of the brain, nucleus accumbens. I think I'm saying that right. It literally is wired to chase. And it's the anticipation of the event. It's anticipation of, your big keynote that you're giving or the smaller presentation. You work so hard for it. You're proud of it. You're excited. You're nervous. And then it's over. An hour later, you're like, oh, so close my laptop, grab all my things and just leave now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
That's tough.
That's right. Okay. So when we're always going after those constant KPIs or the social media pings, that keeps our circuitry on a hair trigger. So think about that. We're this hair trigger circuitry, always like likes, the KPIs. Over time, you're going to need a bigger win for the exact same chemical kick. Well, okay. So what does that remind you of? I think of coke. I think of drugs. I think of meth. I think of cocaine. I think of whatever it is. Maybe you need more Xanax to get the feeling that you're used to. Substance use disorders. You need to smoke more weed. You need, to vape more to get the same feeling that you had 6 months ago. You don't have it now because you've been vaping a lot. You've been smoking a lot of weed.
Yeah.
You need more. You've been snorting, quite a bit of coke.
That's a trap.
You need more.
That's such a trap.
But it's hard to tell people when they're on that roller coaster. It's hard to get them off. And it's hard for you on the roller coaster to get off because the feeling is so intoxicating.
Right.
That's addictive.
Yeah.
It's so similar for people who are looking for those likes on social media. You can tell them to stop. If they could just stop, they would. And they're not because they don't know how to.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
I mean, the social media one, that's a tough one because, if that's what drives you, right? The views, the likes, the comments, if that's what really gets you going, that's a slippery slope because at some point you're not going to get that or you're going to get less of that. Right. And if that's what drives you, that could be devastating. Right. Right. That could just crush you. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And most of us, we have to learn to develop this healthy brake system. And what that is neuroscientifically is our prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal integration plus serotonin balance that helps us to savor the moment without sliding into compulsion. Because what we're talking about here is like being almost obsessive and then compulsive in our behavior, obsessive in our thinking and compulsive in our behavior about what it is that we're air quote addicted to.
Yeah.
All right. So if you feel that way, that's why I think this is something where you really could benefit from having a coach to help you with this. Like I said, I have benefited in the past from a coach to get me to appreciate the process and not be so addicted to achieve all the
Yeah.
time.
Enjoy the journey, right?
Yeah,
The process, the journey, it's the same thing,
right.
right? Wait, let me ask you, I was going to ask you a question. Now it just went away from me. All right, I'll come back
You
to
come
it.
back to it. I'm going to
Yeah,
give you
yeah.
some statistics, which I think are interesting. So 76% of employees today say they feel burned out at least sometimes. So 76% of employees in North America feel burnt out at least sometimes.
Mm.
Okay. Worker stress remains at record highs 2 years running. All right. With 50% of United States workers reporting a lot of stress, air quote, a lot of stress. 50 worker stress remains at record highs 2 years running.
Hmm.
This is 2025. This is statistics from 23 and 24. There's a personal toll. So in the personal toll, the work highlights sleep loss, strained relationships, and ethical drift. An ethical drift is when you're doing something at work, I think mostly work, where you kind of know what you're doing is unethical and probably not cool. Probably shouldn't be doing it this way, but I'll just do it this one time. That's ethical drift.
Because it supports.
It's unethical, but you rationalize in your mind because of your ambition and you got to get it. You got to get it. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm good. I shouldn't. So pay attention to the shoulds. If you find yourself saying should, I probably shouldn't be doing this. I just do this one time because I got to get this done and I got to get all the things we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's called ethical drift.
Mm.
So this is how you see your addiction to achievement is taking its toll on you. You're not getting the sleep. You're not exercising. You're eating like crap. You're ordering a lot of, DoorDash or takeout because you just didn't take the time to slow down and make yourself a nutritious meal. Let's just order sandwiches. Well, you keep doing that and you're not exercising. Maybe I was in a great workout routine pre-COVID. Well, that's all gone away. I just haven't gotten back to it yet, but I'm killing it at work.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I'm killing it at work.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what did my last big win cost me?
Mm.
What did my last big win in my life? What did it cost me? Did it cost me anything? What did it cost me?
I mean, it's always going to cost you time, right? I mean, that's pretty much a given. Effort.
It
right?
does. It does.
Yeah.
But it's got to end. I mean, that's the thing about all this. When I was doing my research on this, is that I've suffered. It's been hard. I mean, it's taken up a lot of space in my brain getting to where I am today with the different parts of my business. I don't know how I could have done it differently. You do have to work hard. I have lost sleep. I have had anxiety at night. I have worried about certain aspects of the business when you're getting it going and then keeping it going. I mean, it does feel like I do feel like a hamster on a treadmill.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And you got to get off, though. You got to get off and take those breaks. I've had to learn to do that.
Yeah.
It's been hard for me to do, but I've had to learn to do it.
Yeah.
Or you're going to burn out.
Totally going to fry. I remember the question. So when you were doing your research, if the goal is an actual measurable goal, so you can quantify success, right? Based off of numbers, based off of views, based off of something, is that throw this whole conversation into a different bucket versus something that's not, that there's no measurement to quantify success other than you did something, like you finished something.
Right.
Right. It's not like there's no time, there's no stopwatch, there's no sales meter, there's none of that. Those are all tough because there's an actual number or success rate.
Right.
Does that change if you've got something else that's just like, well, we delivered really good service or we delivered really good food, let's say, like if you're in the restaurant business, is that a thing or not? I'm
not sure what you're asking. I think that specificity is important.
Yeah.
For everyone. If you're in the restaurant industry, and I think you need to have goals for what is it, the KPIs? I mean, what is it that you're looking for that helps you to define success and achievement for you?
Yeah. But I think when it's a number or it's a time, I think it's very black and white. I think if it's you're delivering an experience, let's say you work at Disney.
I think a lot of people, it's the amount of money they're bringing in in
Maybe
Q1,
that's it.
Q2, Q3. I mean, how much money we bringing in? Are we doing better this month than we did last
Yeah.
quarter?
Yeah.
Are we, are we doing better this year than we did in last year?
Yeah. And
And
that's the trap right there, right? Is that
to
the
continue
be all?
every year to make more money. And not everybody does, year in and year out. And to be able to accept that's not always a reality. And at the same time, continue to work, continue to focus on the process, but you must take breaks. You must step away from it,
Yeah.
or you're going to be good for no one and nothing.
I'm just thinking of
You
like,
will leave that business is what ends up
oh,
happening. You
totally.
shutter, you close your doors, you close your
Y-
shutters,
You're gonna
done.
crumble. Yeah.
And I'm going back to many entrepreneurs. I see this a lot in the entrepreneurial space where they say like 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs are not successful. And they go back to, the 9-to-5ers,
Yeah.
the 9-to-5 jobs, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comfort and satisfaction in the 9-to-5s. But even the 9-to-5s, many of them are not working 9-to-5. And they have many of the same issues. But I think it's harder for entrepreneurs because they have to set this all up for themselves by themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't have the guardrails up that people in businesses and corporations do.
Right. Because they're flying
Institutions.
solo, many of
Yeah.
them, right? They're
Right.
just doing it. They
Right.
just have to get it
Well,
done.
that's me.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody telling me that you can't end your day today until you've done this or that or this or that. I don't have that. I don't have anybody who's going to hold me accountable. So
Yeah.
I have to hold myself accountable.
I think a good takeaway from this chat is like for a supervisor or a manager, like be careful how you set up your platform for all of your workers,
Right.
right? If it's all driven off of numbers and these specific goals, if that's how all of it is set up, you're going to burn out your team at some point. It might take a while. It might not take a while at all, right? It might be quick.
Yeah.
But be very
Burn out your
careful
people.
how you set that up because like it doesn't always have to be about that black and white success fail, right? It doesn't have to be that way all the time.
Okay, so and that's a great segue into, let's go back to healthy ambition versus achievement addiction. What's healthy ambition? Because I want us to be ambitious, of course,
Yeah.
but there is a point for each of us, and you can think of it for yourself. When do you cross over the line where now I'm going into this is like, I'm almost addicted to, I don't care. Yeah, I'm addicted to the process, but I'm actually addicted to the outcome. So here's your blueprint of some ways to rethink how you're living your life when it comes to maybe mostly work, but you can think of it, you who are watching and listening, maybe you have this with in sport or a different arena in your life. Okay. So I want you to have, number one, I want you to have white space wins. All right. So we're all about whites. I'm all about the white space in your life. All right. So I want you to have in your calendar 90 minutes of deep work. And you can think about what deep work is for you, depending on the line of work that you're in. And then you have got to add in 15-minute decompression cycles. Okay. So you've got to have, and this is 15 minutes of white space. And that's where you get up, you go outside, you go for literally a 10-minute walk. Maybe you stop and take a bathroom break. You get a cup of coffee, you fill up your water bottle. Maybe you get on social media, which probably isn't the best, but maybe it's just like, okay, whatever. I'm just like scrolling Instagram for a minute. Or maybe you talk to a coworker or you text one of your kids or something, or your lover, and that's your 15-minute break. All right. Then you go back to your 90 minutes of work. All right. You must take breaks. Really, really important. And we call that white space. Okay. So, rest is a deliverable. And this is the deliverable for you. All right. The 15-minute breaks is your deliverable. You must do this for yourself to move out of the go, 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 go. Because if you keep doing it, we're moving into burnout. All right. Number two, I want you to do this identity decoupling drill. All right. I want you to list 5 worth traits that earn 0 applause for you. All right. Maybe, so the example is I keep people's confidences. I'm a wonderful baker. I 0 applause. So this is something they're worthy value traits, worthy traits for you, for yourself, that it's nothing about money. I take care of my mom and dad, we talked about last week, and
Yeah.
then caregivers, resentment.
Maybe take care of your garden. How about
I
that?
take care of my garden. I
Yeah.
love my garden.
Okay.
I take care of my pets. I love my animals,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. All right. That's you outside of work. So there's your identity. It's other parts of who you are as a person that has nothing to do with the money you bring in or your achievement at work. Okay.
So you got to detach from
Decouple.
how you decouple how you from what you use to make a living, that what carries you through life.
Yes.
Get away from that for a second, because there's a million other things
Right.
that you do. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Number 3, progress over outcome. I want you to journal about this. All right. So this can be a journal prompt. You can end each day doing this. You can start the morning doing this. I want you to write down or think about a courageous effort that you made in your life, not just a result, a courageous effort. That could be, I said to hard email. I talked to a colleague about something that has been uncomfortable for me, that other people are coming to me and talking about, that he or she has been this way and I needed to talk to them. I want you to note anything you did in your life that has been courageous lately, not a result, not just a result. I don't want you to write about results. Okay. So this is your progress over outcome journal prompt. What did I do today? That was a courageous effort. If you're doing it tonight, maybe, yesterday, tomorrow morning, I want you to think about how this past week has been for you. What's something I did that took a little bit of courage?
Maybe
it was driving 2 hours because you don't like driving. Anything.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like something is maybe as quick or simple as like you reached out, you lended a hand to a neighbor.
There you go.
Right? Or you greeted somebody and you had a thoughtful conversation with them or something.
Progress in your life.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
Number 4, I want you to do a 60-second embodiment break. And this is more the getting into your body. It's the polyvagal system. I want you to take that. Maybe when you take that 15-minute break from your 90-minute deep work, you get up and you do a shakeout. You shake yourself out, like literally shake yourself out, do some pace breathing, work on the breathing. I've talked to you all about breathing here on the podcast before, how to change your physiology with your breath. Anything. Sometimes I went to a meditation and yoga conference years ago, and the teacher had us like putting our hands into fists. If you're on YouTube watching, you could see me doing this. I was going to say it was stand up, but I'm wearing shorts, so I wasn't thinking I'd be standing up on camera. Take your fists and take it to your low back and sort of like pound your low back. And I do that. I actually did that for a year. I still do it. Years and years when I was going long in my days in between seeing clients and I was feeling tired.
Yeah.
This would revive me a little bit. So take your fists and just gently pound your low back. I forget what it does, but I remember at the point it was something important.
Is that
pound your low back?
Does it have to do something with posture? Is it like
no? I just stand up and I would just kind of gently, pound my low back. It revives you a bit. It would re-energize me when I was going with long hours seeing clients and wanted to be, mindful and present for each and every one of them.
Okay.
I would do that. So do a shakeout, do some breathing techniques. Okay. But that's getting you back into your body. It's just a 60-second break from all that you got going on in your life. Okay. And it restores your vagal tone and lowers cortisol. Okay. So I don't know that the pounding of the low back I don't remember her saying that at the time. But maybe that is what it is doing and was doing all those years, because it just got me back in the present moment. And maybe if I had cortisol that was going up because of maybe I'd seen a client who was PTSD trauma and I was being affected by it at a deep, deep level that I wasn't even really conscious of, it got me set for my next client to be fully present for that next person and what they were presenting with. All right. But you all can do this. Just do a shakeout. I mean, that makes a big difference. I do that. All right.
For me at work, like depending upon what's going on, and I move a lot, you know this, I move a lot during the day. So it's not like I need to get up and stretch my legs because I'm like almost always walking around, but there's times where I need to like mentally check for a sec. You know what I mean? So I'll go up, like we have a fitness center in our building. So I'll just go up. We have an indoor track. I'll just walk a lap or two. right? Or I'll grab somebody and say, hey, you know what? And we
You
need
probably are taking a break from everything.
totally.
Yeah.
But like sometimes I'll grab like a coworker or one of my people and be like, hey, you know what? Like we need to talk about
Let's
this
walk and talk.
and we need to walk and talk. Or
Yeah.
like we'll go outside and we have a path that goes around our entire property. It's probably, I don't know, it's not quite a half a mile, but when it's a decent walk, but what a great way. You get
Right.
outside,
Right.
you're like mentally, you're just like checked
Well, you're hitting the
out.
reset button.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize it, but that's probably what you need, that reset.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a 60-second like embodiment break. Get into your body,
Right.
go outside in nature, and just okay, let me just take a break
Now
from
I'm
that
good.
environment.
I can jump back
Right.
in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then number 5 is micro tribe Friday check-in, which I love. So you could do this, Tim. So I want you to share one non-achievement joy with friends. Okay. So that could be with coworkers or it could be with friends. One non-achievement joy that week. And you do that at the end of the week or maybe on Saturday. Look back at your week. What happened this week that brought me joy or made me laugh? For me, it's laughter. What made me laugh out loud this past week? It had nothing to do with work. And I always configure somebody will send me something that will make me laugh or something will happen or I'll have like, be yucking it up with a client. We're both laughing. That brings me joy.
Yeah.
And so I will, often reflect back on my week and think that was great. So what are the positives? What are the good things?
Yeah.
All right. What brought you joy this week? Maybe you saw your grandchild. Maybe you were in a beautiful setting and you met somebody. Maybe you went on a coffee date. Think of it for yourself. Okay.
Yeah. I used to work with somebody that like in their meeting, and it wasn't always on a Friday, but most of the time it was. And they would have a moment where it was like you'd go around, depending upon the size of the group. The groups are relatively small, so you could pull this off, right? If it's a giant group, you'd be there all day. But it would be like, all right, give us your high for the week, your low for the week. And I forget what the third one was, but it was like the what the heck moment. Like what was that? Yeah, like what was that all about moment for you? But it was so nice because you could hear, we all go to battle with this group daily, right? But it was nice to like understand that them as a human, like they have moments of like really good and they think about that, but then they also have these really tough moments and they think about that too.
Right.
And then they also have moments where they're like, what in the world are you doing? That's weird. Like what just happened with the patron or a kid or like, a coworker or whatever. It was kind of cool to like have those little breaks,
Right. Right. Okay. So here's the takeaways from this episode. All right. Number 1, I want you to label the loop. I want you to label it. I want you to know when you're chasing something and then you crash down and then you're back up chasing again. Okay. So you need to understand that pattern for yourself because once you start to understanding is so, so important. Understanding and acknowledging this, that you're doing this because it loosens its grip on you. You gotta know it before you can work on it. Right. So label the loop. If you're in this chase, crash, chase event, the big event happens and you crash. Now it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? All right. Understand that.
Yeah. Is it so you're labeling it just so that you can refer back to it? Is that
so you can learn to work on it, but you have to know you're doing it first.
okay?
It's just knowledge. It's like acknowledgement. Oh yeah, I that's me.
Yeah,
I do that. I get
You've
into that.
identified it, and now you're putting a name to it because it probably makes it a little more personal. Then, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Number 2, remember we talked about very briefly in here, dopamine surges when you're in pursuit of something. So remember that your dopamine is surging when you're going, chasing. So you need to design pauses into your work habits that lets your chemistry settle. All right. Because that's the chase, crash, chase.
Yeah.
You're going to crash because the dopamine's going to drop. And then it's like, what's next? And people feel depressed. They feel down. They feel burnt out. They feel weary, actually, even in their bodies, mentally, psychologically. It can affect you at every level. Understand that. Remember my dopamine's up right now because I'm in the chase. I'm pursuing. But if you understand that, you got to do it different. And then your chemistry will settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's at these highs and lows, right?
I mean, that's a really powerful takeaway because no one thinks of it from
And
a
many of you are going to need help with this.
yeah.
I think this is something you need coaching on. I think this is hard because I know it's hard for me.
Yeah.
And if you're anything, if you're remotely type A personality, you're going to need help with this.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
nobody thinks about the science, the biology of this, right? Like,
More and more today, we are thinking about this in neuroscience, but I
like
think when we're in the moment, right, we're not.
the
Right.
normal person's
We're not.
not. They
Right.
don't even know
Right.
what's happening right
Right.
now. Yeah.
Okay, number 3, remember your worth does not equal your wins. You are worthy because you are just worthy as a human being
Hmm.
that you are, how you came into this world. Your worth does not equal your wins. And I don't care who says that that is that way. I want you to not listen to them because many of you are getting messaging from your bosses, from your company, that your worth depends upon how the wins you bring in for me, for your boss, for the company. I'm saying to you, that's not true. Don't listen to it. I know you're not going to probably like hearing that, some of you, and it's true. So you need to decouple your identity of who you are as a person from your output with daily trait lists about who you are as a person, your character, your personality traits that have nothing to do with your performance at work
Yeah.
or nothing to do with how fast you ran that last marathon or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. You know, how well you did in your last curling competition. Okay.
Yeah.
Really important for you all to think about. I want you to swap number 4. I want you to swap vanity metrics for vitality metrics. So no more of these vanity metrics for many of you who are, look, maybe you're an influencer and you're not an influencer. You're all about the likes. All right. I want you to swap that for vitality metrics, such as how many hours of sleep did you get last night? How hard did you laugh this week? Did you laugh with anybody? All right. Did you have a really yummy meal? And did you have a meal where you were in fellowship with another human being and you talked about your week or someone told you a great story? All right.
Yeah.
Those are vitality, life metrics. All right.
I
And
like that.
this is important.
Yeah, I don't like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen people get so upset, like if they're driven by that whole electronic, like the likes and the view.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've seen that live where it's
More
like,
with
oh,
millennials and Gen Zers, we're seeing
yeah,
it,
but
and even
like,
the younger generation.
but it's a crushing moment for
Yes,
them,
it is.
right?
It's hard.
Hmm.
And then number 5, which I had just mentioned, I want you to work on getting your micro tribe together. And what that does is it creates a social buffering that keeps drive from turning into a drug.
Mm.
It's okay to have drive. I have drive. I want you to have drive, but I don't want it to be your drug. Okay. And your tribe of people, your friends, your family, maybe some you talked about like coworkers, colleagues that you have psychological safety with, where maybe on a Friday afternoon or maybe, Saturday at dinner, you can talk about your wins from the week and all the things that went well and things that brought you joy that don't have to do with work.
Right.
Like I said, like you saw your grandbaby,
Yeah.
or you reached out to an old friend that you saw on Facebook. You're like, oh my gosh, how are they? And you DM them, and that brought you pleasure. That had nothing to do with your work, but we were best friends in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I left that town. I haven't been there in 30 years. I haven't seen them, and that was a really nice reconnect.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That person remembers you as a person you were when you were 13 or 14. They care about you, your person, and maybe they know your family. They don't care about what you do and what what you're achieving right now.
Yeah.
All right.
And think about like all the time you spend, not only just it being present at work, right? So whether your work day is 6 hours, 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever the number is, but then there's the mental side of that too, where it's like, okay, you go home and you're off, but you're not really, right? Like Monday
Right.
through Friday, some people it's different weekdays, but like you're thinking about work. You're thinking about things. You're thinking about, oh, I need to give a little bit more effort or time to that.
Right.
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 That drives a lot of what we do as a human
Right.
throughout the course of a week. That's crazy.
And you can know at the end of the day what matters is that you have these friends and family and people that love you and care about you. We all, I think, know that. It's something that somebody said to me, and I've repeated it so many times with clients. I've said it here on the podcast. At the end of the day, at your funeral, when you have passed on, nobody is going to talk about the kind of house you lived in, the car you drove, or how much money you made. wow, you're at someone's wake or someone's shiva and you're talking about how, well, they made $3 million last year, whatever, or they were really successful 20 years ago. No. What do people remember? They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
People remember how you made them feel. So I'm the one who's dead and gone. People will remember how Anna made them feel, not how much money Anna made,
Right.
or not even how successful her podcast was or her speaking arm of her business was. Well, yeah, I do remember her talking, but I went up to her after and we had this conversation about what she mentioned on stage. And I remember how she made me feel over in the corner of the conference room.
Yeah.
That's what people remember. So that's the takeaway for all of you. All right. So take a break from achieving. Take a 24-hour fast. I would say do it. I say do it every single week. Either that's what you do on Sundays, on Saturdays. But remember that all of this, it's so important to have goals and to have drive and to be ambitious. I'm right there with you. I'm that way too. And you must take breaks. And remember, at the end of the day, it's the people in your life. It's the people that you love and care about. And those who love and care about you, don't neglect those relationships, those friendships, those family people that you love. Pour into them. That's at the end of the day what matters.
Yeah. Because the flip side is also scary, right? If you don't do that and they're at your funeral and they don't have those memories or those moments, like
Then there will be little said.
there's nothing to talk
There you
about.
go.
Yikes.
Okay. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast with 5 stars. And I hope that this was helpful.
There you
All
go.
right. Mad love. Until next time, everybody.